What is going on, everyone? Michael here, and today's video. Now, this is going to be a little bit more elaborate of a video, but we're going to talk about why it is good to invest in Pokemon products, specifically booster boxes. So, we're going to go ahead and first talk about how we're going to compare this. So, we're going to compare this first to your standard stock market, okay? So typically, when you invest in the stock market, on average, you should get about 7% return every year on your investment. So, what does that equate to? That equates to after about 10 years, a little over 10 years, you will double your money. So, let's say you invest $100 in stock A. After 10 years, that $100 becomes $200, okay? That's our comparison. That's what we're going to use to compare the Pokemon products. Okay? So, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about why exactly Pokemon cards are actually a really good investment to make. Now, let me go ahead and say a disclaimer. You should not drop all your eggs in the Pokemon basket. This is just used to help diversify your portfolio, okay? I have stocks myself. I do not throw all my money at this stuff. It is something extra that I enjoy that also will bring eventually some extra money later. So, before we even talk about numbers for Pokemon, I want to go ahead and actually talk about the brand itself, because when a certain stock goes down, it's because the brand itself is having issues. I mean, just take a look at Magic. It's not the product that they're putting out, it's the brand, it's their management. So, when you look at Pokemon, well, guess what? Those Pokemon's on everything. It's at least in Japan. It's on airplanes. It's on buses. It is literally a worldwide phenomena. You ask most people, and you show a picture of Pikachu, I can almost guarantee you they will say it's a Pikachu, unless they're that old where they haven't been actually introduced to it. But most people know what a Pikachu is. So with that, the biggest downfall, like I said, is that the brand itself goes away. So if the brand goes away and Pokemon just ceases to exist, that's the issue. That's where your potential profit will evaporate. If no one wants Pokemon, your cards aren't worth anything. But that's it. There's no other downfall when it comes to it. I mean, Pokemon, especially over the past 3 years, is like thriving. It is better than it's ever been. We had like the X and Y era where things were kind of getting slow. The print runs were super low, and then I don't know if it's just the COVID happening and all of a sudden people are just back in love with it, or that it's so out there now. I mean, Jake Paul's doing it. We're having YouTubers that have 2 million subscribers opening cards. So it's an awesome time. I mean, there's so many people getting into the hobby now, and I don't see it slowing down. They're getting rid of Ash in the shows, so we'll see if that has anything, but they're just rolling. There is so much good stuff right now with the Pokemon brand. And that's the only way that your investments are going to go down, is that if the brand itself goes away. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual financial viability of this. So, we all know that one thing, especially compared to stocks, that's different is that the sealed products that we have, the booster boxes, I mean, even if you want to go tins and ETBs, they all have a base floor price. There's no way. So, for example, your typical booster box when it releases is going to be around $100. Obviously, we have sets like Battle Styles that got down below 90. That happens. But typically, a booster box is going to, at the lowest, cost you around that $100 mark. And that's typically right after a set releases is when we see those prices. And from there, guess what? It just goes up. Now, it's different to actually project how well these sets are doing. And that's really because there is no definitive way that Pokemon distributes and creates these cards. So, for example, as demand increases, they print more cards. As demand decreases, they stop printing as many cards. Which is why you have some sets, that were well long away that just didn't have as many cards printed, as many packs printed, because the demand wasn't there. We had the XY era where people were freaking out and not buying anything. And then we have sets like Battle Styles and Chilling Ring and Fusion Strike where they overprinted those to like crazy. So we can't necessarily compare every set with each other because the way they're printed, the cards inside, they just act differently. So the best we can do really is we can compare. What we do is we'll go ahead and compare the lowest and worst sets from, we'll say, the past two eras, the Sun and Moon and X and Y era, just so we have at least somewhat of an idea of what we can expect as like a worst case scenario. So Sun and Moon, the worst set is Crimson Invasion. Now, Crimson Invasion came out, if I remember correctly, was about 5.5 years ago. So 5.5 years, the price of that box now is $180. And again, we bought that at $110. So we just right there, obviously besides sales and sales tax and, the TCG player fees, we're not going to add that all together. We're just going to go ahead and say the value of the product went from 110 to 140. So it's already outpacing the 5-year span. At 5 years, this product is supposed to be around like 154. So the fact that it's $26, the lowest set of Sun and Moon is doing better already. It's already doing better than a typical stock would. And this is, again, the worst set. And we'll go ahead and go even further. We'll go back to the X and Y era. Now, the worst set in that, and like arguably one of the worst sets of the past decades, Steam Siege. Everyone knows it. Everyone hates it. It's the worst set of XY. Now, guess how much that one is? 270 is roughly what it's going for. Now, quick math, that's over double the price. That's about one and a half times the price. That's only been out for 6.5 years. So now we could see, we could see how low these can get. And again, that's the low. That's the lowest you can expect. Nobody wants the set. I'm going to be stuck with this set for forever. Well, guess what? What if it's a good set? Evolving Skies, I'm looking at you. $400 for that? Yeah, 4x in a matter of less than 2 years. That's what can happen. And it's something just, you got to think about it. Like, that's the low. And that's already outpacing typical stock market values. So with that, we could see how Pokemon has this huge profitability margin. There's obviously, again, some harder, it's much harder to actually realize that money gained, as I have expressed in another video that you should actually check out. And it's about how you actually sell your product and the things you don't think about, because you don't just get the money back for this stuff. You eventually have to sell it. And that's really the risk, not risk, but it's the trade-off between the stock market and how that's lower return versus how easy it is to sell your stocks and get your money back and realize that gain. It is much harder to sell Pokemon cards. But if you're passionate about it and you kind of get on track on learning how to get rid of this stuff, Pokemon just has the opportunity to make you just a crap load of money. I mean, we've seen, now don't get me wrong, you're not going to see these base set prices of like $20,000, but we're seeing like Team Up. Team Up's over $1,000 for that. And that's that was the end of Sun and Moon, so that 4 years ago. 4 years ago, that 9x is your money. Almost 10. Like, the risk reward on that is insane. Like, there's hardly a risk. Again, unless Pokemon goes under, the actual risk involved in holding these products is so low compared to the potential high. And of course, that's the highest. But then, let's say, in 5 years, it goes for $300. That's 3x. That's 20 years worth of investing in stocks in this one booster box. So just something to think about. If you like the information, if it helped you in any way, maybe clarified why we're doing this, why it's even a thing to invest in Pokemon cards, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts. Like, is this something that you invest in? Why is it bad? I've had so many people tell me how investing in this stuff is not a real thing. It is a real thing, whether you like it or not. It's a collectible. Yes, it's a children's cardboard. It's a collectible. But guess what? It's got a lot of money to be made. And I know for one, I'm ready to make that money.